I absolutely love this creator, and she actually posed this question. Check it out. Have you ever looked outside a window and seen something that you wish that you hadn't? I'm not talking about seeing a shadow. I want my flabbergasted with your stories. Stay tuned. Saw the ghost of a cat at my friend's house near their fire pit, as if it were getting ready to curl up next to the heat of the fire. My friend said that they used to have a cat that would do that, but it has since passed. It was way cool. It was my first time being there, and they never mentioned the cat before. I could tell it was a nice confirmation that their kitty was still with them. That's sweet. Yeah, no, your animals are going to be staying around you. They love you. They almost act as like protectors, guides. It's beautiful. My best friend was at end of life. I stayed at my boyfriend's house that night. About 1:30 in the morning, I sat on the edge of the bed and looked across the room. It was my best friend. She had been smiling and waving at me. A couple minutes later, I got the call that she had passed. I miss her so much. Yeah, no, that actually is something that is pretty frequent with loved ones. Either you'll see them, you'll feel them, or they will run through your dreams. This is actually pretty common. I was about 10 years old, and I heard something outside of my bedroom window. I held my blinds open and saw the silhouette of a man leaning against the AC unit between my house and the neighbor. He saw me and walked away, so I thought, and then came back and put his face right against the window as I was peering through the blinds. We were literally eye to eye. Yeah, no, call the police. Call the police, call a priest, call any adult who's around. Get help. Oh my God, that's psychotic. Both my parents passed 10 months apart. While my older niece was staying the night and slept with me in my parents' room, I woke in the middle of the night to see my dad standing by the door with his arms folded and smiling at me. I didn't think anything of it and just said, "Hi, Dad," and went into the bathroom, came back out, and went back to bed. Those visitations will never cease to amaze me. They're so sweet and beautiful. Years ago, my friend told me that she had watched an English Civil War reenactment at night in the field opposite her bedroom. She was so confused as to why they were doing it in the dark. Yeah, that's a mystery. Get the sage. I was washing dishes and looked out the window and saw half a dozen men in full Mohawk regalia watching the 6-year-old girl I was babysitting playing with her dolls and the cat. I was out the door in seconds calling her name, and there was nobody else there but her. Leftover energy. I know that it can be nerve-wracking. It's not going to do anything to hurt you. And if you're worried about it, you can actually get a blessing for the area. My uncle had passed away on my 16th birthday. I had been invited out to dinner with the family I worked for, and I didn't think it right that I should still go out. But my mother said he would have wanted me to, so I went. When I got home that night, I was getting changed for bed when I kept hearing a noise outside. I looked through the blinds to see my uncle standing outside, waving goodbye. I'm sorry for your loss. That was a beautiful send-off that he gave you. I was about 6 and dreamed that elves were building tunnels in our backyard. I woke up and peered out the window to see if it was real, only to see a wicked little elf staring back at me. I think I would set a world record for getting down from the top bunk and into the safety of my parents' room. Yeah, no, we're all there with you. We're all there with you. I probably would have done that and then would have been the kid to probably dress it up in doll clothing. That's a thing. A man went missing in the foothills and he left everything. Cigarettes, money, and keys bolted into the cemetery area. Later on, I saw his ghost at the home looking at me with distress. The cemetery is directly from me. You should get some holy water in a little spray bottle. Twice in the last 3 years, I randomly looked out my window and saw a man walking. He walked about 10 steps and then disappeared. Both times, it was in the same place. Must be residual haunting. No, it's just, that's leftover energy. Honestly, it's passed through there so many times. It's like when you walk in the grass and you know how you do it so many times that the grass starts to fade and then it just stops growing and it just becomes dirt. That's kind of what you got going on there in the spirit realm. Then we have, saw the spirit of a man who once owned my house standing beside the gazebo. It was a quick flash, but he was there. I've also seen a deceased pet cat out in the corner of my eye. The cat was laid to rest in our backyard. I was gardening. He came prancing towards me. I thought it was a squirrel at first. When I turned to fully look, I realized it was Spooky. I jumped back and he was gone. Yeah, again, your little fur babies are going to let you know that they're okay, that they're still around you, and that they love you. They often go to the places that they used to go because that was a happy place. Other than that, it's probably leftover energy, but you get what I mean. In 1993, Spotsville, Pennsylvania, I was taking a break from studying in my room when I looked out my window and I saw a man approaching. Thinking it was my dad, I ran to the front door to tell him about my day. Nobody was there. I go back to the room and there's a Manahawk man walking through the dang wall. I didn't sleep in my room for weeks. Yeah, nobody would have. We would have moved out for you. Again, they can't hurt you, but man, it freaks you out. So this story probably won't gas your flabbers, but it's what I saw. I was fully aware at 6 years old that I could see things. Many nights around dusk when us kids were sent to bed, I would sit on the edge of the bed with my elbows on the windowsill and watch tired Civil War soldiers walk through the fields behind our house. I knew they were Civil War era because this was in Virginia and the soldier posters were on the wall in my classroom. There was always a large group of them, and they would walk like they'd been walking for miles and miles, tired and with some dragging their rifles on the ground behind them. They all looked grayish, so I could never determine what color their uniforms were. Crazy thing is, I was never scared. I always just watched them and hoped that they didn't have much further to get home safely. Not for nothing, you're probably a psychic medium. Just going to throw that out there, okay? That is incredible. Must have been around 8 or so, and I was on the bus sitting next to Grandma having a chat. People kept coming on the bus at different stops, no one actually getting off. Eventually, we got to a certain stop, and my gran told me to get off the bus, as I should not go any further. I woke up from the dream. Gran had passed in her sleep. She was saying goodbye. I'm sorry for your loss. When I was younger, I looked out my window just to find a man with a scary expression on his face staring back. I screamed, and my stepdad ran out to ask him what he was doing in our full fenced yard. He said he was looking for directions. Our blinds were always down in the evening from there on. What makes a person think that they can actually do crap like that? Like, what's the thought process here? Why does that thought went out to go up to some random house like this? They were probably a serial unaliver. I'm just going to put that out there. See how it feels. I looked out the kitchen window, and 2 ladies walking their dogs stopped and froze in place like the Matrix glitched. The dogs froze too while everything else around them was moving. Even their hair was frozen. It was windy. Strange. Yeah, no. I was visiting a sister-in-law, and she was in a nursing home. I sat in her home looking through old pictures, reminiscing when she was young and healthy. As I glanced upwards, I saw her full body young again, staring at me through a window. As she turned around and left, I got a phone call she had just passed. You know, when loved ones cross over, they'll usually show up in a form of whether it's the way that you remember them or at the peak point of their life. But regardless, they're showing you that they're okay and that there's nothing to be afraid of and they love you. Oh my God. Okay, so I was lounging on the bed reading a book. My new kitten was cuddling up next to my stomach, being spooned by me. I looked up at the window and thought I should close the window before something comes in. Weirded out over that thought, I was on the 2nd floor. What could come in? I laid there and continued to read. Some 10 minutes or so later, a fast black thing flew into my window, shocking myself and the kitten. Neither of us moved, and we looked up and followed the black thing with our eyes. It flew around the ceiling several times, and then it slowed down. It looked something like a grim reaper with a cloak and tatters around the edges. I looked down at my kitten, and it was shaking hard in fear as I watched the thing above look back at the wall, above the door, and out of my apartment. To this day, I realize all those Halloween costumes with the tattered edges are based on actual paranormal things. Yep, nope. So we're going to get holy water, and we're going to tread lightly on this one. Nope, we're done.